Wow, we've just reached 100 subscribers. Someday people are gonna dig this video up and be like, well, that's ironic. Anyhow, today I would like to discuss my top 10 favorite albums of all time. Now we're talking all genres here, not just rock and metal, so you might see a pop album in there. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. This is just my list. This is the top 10 albums of all time, like, by some music critic out there. Well, technically I am a music critic, but this is just my opinion. These are my picks. They're not facts. You know, if none of these albums you like, if I pick albums that you do not like yourself, and you're like, ugh, I don't like that one. I like other ones by those artists. Well, make a list too. Okay? Leave me your top 10 albums of all time down below in the comments. So, yeah. Alright, let's do this. Ready? Number 10, Facelift by Alice in Chains. I absolutely love Alice in Chains. Layne Staley is one of my favorite vocalists of all time, and his vocals on this album, amazing, astonishing, phenomenal. Any word you can describe that says amazing and awesome, and just all those words combined, that's Layne Staley. Dude was an amazing vocalist, is still an amazing vocalist to this day. And no one sounds like him. Like, to this day, no one can sound like him, you know? And his vocal style was just very unique. You know, you look at the grunge people, you had like Kurt Cobain, you had Chris Cornell, which I think they're all amazing in their own, you know, on their own merit. They're all amazing vocalists, but Layne had something special, you know? And no one to this day can sing like him, you know, like, at all. You see people who do Alice in Chains covers, they do not sound, well, they kind of sound, you can kind of like mimic Layne's voice, but you cannot copy it like one-to-one, like, you know what I mean? Like 100% Layne Staley's voice, that ain't happening. that ain't happening. That's like copying Ronnie James Dio's voice. You just can't. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So with all that being said, Facelift the album, it's perfection. Every single song on there, the catchiness, the grooves, every single thing about that, I love it very much. Drum sound, guitar sound, bass sound, everything is just phenomenal. Can't say it, I can't stress that enough, you know? It's just an amazing album. I love it very much. And Alice in Chains is one of my favorite bands of all time. And, you know, calling Layne Staley talented is an understatement, because that dude, just magnificent vocal work. One of my favorite vocalists of all time. And yeah, so Facelift by Alice in Chains, that's going to be at number 10. Coming in at number 9, we've got Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow by Rainbow. You know, recently I've discovered that I enjoy a lot of folk rock, you know, which I know that's probably quite a plot twist for some of you out there, but yeah, I actually like folk rock, you know, I like that kind of music. So get this, Ritchie Blackmore was one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and guess what, Ronnie James Dio, favorite vocalist of all time. You mix those two together, along with the members of Elf, what do you get? One of the most beautiful and elegant albums I've ever heard in my life. If you have never listened to Rainbow but love Dio, Ritchie Blackmore, or even Deep Purple, I highly recommend this album, because you will just be blown away. This came out in 1975, and it just holds up incredibly well. Every single song off here, Man on the Silver Mountain, Catch the Rainbow, The Temple of the King, those songs give me chills every single time I hear them. Like, any song on here really gives me chills, because I just love it so much. Production is amazing, instrumentation is an easy 10 out of 10 on this album, and Man on the Silver Mountain, to this day, is my favorite song of all time. Anytime I'm having a bad day, I throw on Man on the Silver Mountain, it goes away. It just goes away. And anytime I want to get hyped up in the morning, because, you know, I'm not a morning person, I throw on Man on the Silver Mountain, that instantly gets me pumped up and ready to go, you know? So, yeah, I would highly recommend, if you're not a morning person, turn on some Man on the Silver Mountain, because that'll get you up. So yeah, that's gonna come in at number 9. Coming in at number 8, we've got Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden. You can't have a top 10 albums without Iron Maiden, you know? I entirely love the 80s albums of Iron Maiden. I'm not the biggest fan of their longest tracks, like I think it's like the last, probably like the last 4 or 5 albums. They've been doing a lot of these epic tracks. I like those, but I'm more of a fan of like the 3 to 5 minute tracks, you know what I mean? And I like the 7-minute tracks, but just here and there. I don't like when every single song is like really long. I think for some bands that works, like Tool, obviously, that works for them. But Iron Maiden, I don't really like the epic tracks of Iron Maiden that much. I like Iron Maiden when they're shorter, you know what I mean? And that's why I love the 80s albums so much, you know? The songs don't overstay their welcome, but they're very replayable, you know? The epic tracks, as much as I like those, I just don't really revisit them, you know? Because you got that, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. I love Iron Maiden, don't get me wrong, but I prefer the shorter tracks than the longer tracks for Iron Maiden. Now, Iron Maiden, now, if you want to talk about having a bad day, if you're ever having a bad day, listen to Iron Maiden, because those songs, I'm telling you, they're like one of the most uplifting, inspiring bands ever. The Trooper, That is one of my all-time favorite songs too. I love The Trooper. It's so good. It puts me in the happiest mood every single time I hear it. Like, I can't listen to this album without just smiling all the way through, because it's literally just the happiest album probably one of the happiest albums I've ever listened to. Because Iron Maiden, I don't know, there's something about Iron Maiden that just gets you smiling. I don't know what it is. It's like very uplifting. It's very happy. I love it very much. Bruce Dickinson, amazing vocalist, and every single all the other talented musicians in the band. Which I can't, this is gonna sound awful, but I can't think of their names right now. They'll come to me later. But all the people that make up Iron Maiden, any different lineup, I love them very much. You know, they're all awesome. I like, I think his name was Blaze, that did the album, what was it, the albums in the 90s, called, like, oh, I forgot what they're called. You know what I'm talking about, though, like, the albums in the 90s where they take out Bruce. His name is Blaze Bailey, I'm pretty sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But he did 2 albums with the band. I love those albums. I know people don't like them because they're kind of dark. But even when they're dark, even they're like darker albums, you know. But they're still like, they've still got that like build up, you know. They still got that happiness to them that Iron Maiden's like known for. And I like them. Like, they're darker, but they're still happy, if that makes sense. And Eddie, the mascot, that mummy, man, that's like the greatest mascot of all time, if you ask me. No mascot in the, like, anything can top Eddie, if you ask me. And I'm a huge fanboy over band mascots. Okay, coming in at number 7, Creatures of the Night by Kiss. I was so excited whenever I heard they're making a box set of this album. Then I saw the price, and I was like, yeah, we ain't buying that. But in all seriousness, I love Creatures of the Night. The album is heavy, darker. It's got some more metal sounding. It's metal sounding Kiss. It's metal Kiss. And Eric Carr's drum sound, I've said it once, I'll say it again. That drum sound makes this entire album heavy. It's like getting punched. It's just, it's raw. It's heavy. It's darker than what Kiss was at the time. And it just makes me really sad that metal sounding Kiss did not catch on. But Creatures of the Night still holds up to this day. The box set is awesome. I think they should lower the price, though, because, like, $300, come on now. Like, I just wish Kiss box sets were cheaper. Like, you know what would be a good price for that? Like, $75. I think $75 is enough, you know? And I can understand if it's, like, $300 if it's, like, a vinyl, you know, if it's, like, records, and you got, like, 5 records in there, and that actually makes sense, because, you know, records are more expensive to produce than CDs are. But come on now, $300 for a box set, that's a little steep if you ask me. I wouldn't even pay $60 for I almost said DVD, a CD, unless it was like of a rare album, like long out of print. Like if say like Make, Feed, Kill, Repeat. If I saw that like a garage sale and that was like $60, I'm taking that. But if it's like a brand new release, like let's say Kiss makes a new album, they're like, oh, let's put one last album out in 2023, but they charge $60 for it. I ain't buying that. I'm going on Spotify. Forget that. But yeah, I like the box set songs. They've got the a longer version of War Machine, which has an extra guitar solo, and at the end, Gene is all like, War Machine, War Machine, War Machine. He don't actually say it exactly like that, but he says something similar. I forgot how it goes, but yeah, he does say that at the end. I also enjoy the outtakes on the box set, like Deadly Weapon, Feels Like Heaven, Nowhere to Run, Not for the Innocent, Betrayed. Some of those songs made it on the later albums, but those, I mean, those demos are really good. I'm kind of sad that they didn't get on the actual album, because they would have made it like... Honestly, if those songs were included, this might be a little higher on the top 10 albums list. I might put it a little higher if those songs were on there. But yeah, that's Creatures of the Night by Kiss. I love it. I love the Gene songs, Paul songs, every single song on this album. I love it. And I really want to see a Hot in the Shade box set. I know a lot of people don't like Hot in the Shade, but I do. I love Hot in the Shade. I'd love to see a box set of that someday. Alright, now this one, you gotta have a Black Sabbath album in here. So for me, number 6, Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath. Now don't get me wrong, I love every single era of Black Sabbath. I love the Dio era, I love the Ozzy era, I love the Tony Martin era, the Ian Gillan era, the Glenn Hughes era, the Ray Gillan era, even though he didn't really sing on like an actual album. I love every single era of Black Sabbath. You put any singer in there from Black Sabbath, I love them. But, you know, obviously I like other singers more than others, you know what I mean? So, Dio is my favorite era of Black Sabbath. My second favorite era of Black Sabbath, Ozzy, obviously, because come on now. You gotta have Ozzy pretty high up there. Because, you know, Ozzy made Black Sabbath. Like, he was the voice of Black Sabbath. Even if he got Dio in there, like, Dio Black Sabbath ain't really like Ozzy Black Sabbath, which I know they weren't going for that, which no era sounds the same. That's what I love about Black Sabbath. No era of Black Sabbath sounds like it's trying to, like, copy an era of, another era of Black Sabbath, which I really love. That's awesome. You know what I mean? And I love all the Black Sabbath albums, don't get me wrong. I would say, if we're not counting Dio albums, like the Dio era of the band, my favorite Ozzy Black Sabbath album, and this is going to shock the world right now, Never Say Die. I love Never Say Die. That is such an awesome album. I know some people don't like it because it's got some jazz elements in there, but I love that album. Front to back, amazing. So, yeah, that's my favorite Ozzy era Black Sabbath album, but I know we're not talking about that. We're talking about Heaven and Hell. Which, man, Heaven and Hell is just, like, so good. I cannot stress that enough. It's so amazing. You start out with Neon Nights. You know you're in for a good time when you hear Neon Nights for the first time. Like, come on. And then you hear Heaven and Hell. It's like, boom, 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 down, down, boom, down, 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 down. Like, come on now. That is an amazing title track. That's like the greatest title track of all time, if you ask me. One of the best title tracks of all time. And Tony Iommi, my favorite guitar player of all time. Every single Sabbath song has an amazing rocking guitar riff or solo. Any song that Tony Iommi, I love Tony Iommi's guitar playing, because the amount of riffs that man wrote, and solos too, the amount of riffs and solos that man wrote, and he never ran out of, like, ideas for one, that's, like, amazing. You know what I mean? It's amazing. Not many guitar players could just, you know, keep on cranking out solos like that and make them unique every single time, but he did. And so did Richie Blackmore. But, you know, some guitarists would just kind of, like, reuse the same riff over and over. That's not what Tony did, and I love that about him. Awesome guitar player. My favorite of all time. Now, as previously mentioned, Ronnie James Dio, favorite vocalist of all time. Tony Iommi, favorite guitar player of all time. And, yeah, that's why Heaven and Hell is number 6. It's got to be high up there, you know? And if you've never listened to the Dio era of the band, only Ozzy, you're missing out. like, if you just think the Ozzy Sabbath is the best Sabbath, you know, you can be entitled to that opinion. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But at least give the other eras a try. Because I'm telling you, those other eras are really, really, really good. And you're missing out if you're just not going to listen to them. So I highly recommend it. If you've never given them a chance, give them a chance now. Go listen to them. Oh, and by the way, 2023, the Tony Martin albums are scheduled to be re-released on Spotify. Well, I don't know about if they're on streaming services or not. They probably will be. But they're supposed to be re-released on CD. Which, even if they're not on Spotify, I'm still going to buy, like, the re-release CD, because I tried getting original copies of, like, Headless Cross and Tear, and boy, those things are, like, $40. Then I look up the vinyl, like, $225. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not paying for that. Because, come on now, I'm not spending $200 on a vinyl. Only way I would ever spend like $300 on a vinyl. You know, we'll talk about that later. I'll talk about the only time I buy a $300 vinyl. We'll talk about that later. Number 5, Load by Metallica. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, are my eyes deceiving me? Are my ears deceiving me? Because I know this man didn't just say Load. Yep, Load is an underrated masterpiece by Metallica. I love Load. I don't care what any Metallica fan says. Load is an amazing album, and in my opinion, it's their best album. The second one I would put after that, Ride the Lightning. Third, Kill 'Em All. Fourth, I'm going to go with Master of Puppets. And number 5, number 5. That one changes a lot. You know, right now, I don't really... Garage Inc. isn't the full, like, studio album. That's just a compilation album. But... And Justice for All. I'd say number 5 is And Justice for All, because I really do love And Justice for All. But yeah, I love every single track off Load. I don't think there's any filler. My favorite songs off this album are Ain't My Female Dog, 2x4, The House Jack Built, Until It Sleeps, King Nothing, Bleeding Me, Cure, Poor Twisted Me, Mama Said, Thorn Within, and Ronnie, and The Outlaw Torn. I love this album very much. I don't care what anyone says. Go check it out. Seriously, just give it a chance. I'm telling you, it's not that bad. I know you go to Metallica for thrash metal heaviness, not thrash metal Lynyrd Skynyrd, but I'm telling you, Load is not a bad album by any means. Just go in there, listen to it again. I guarantee you, you'll like at least one song, because I did not expect Load to be my favorite Metallica album, but it is, okay? So, yeah, I know Load has its fans, and shout out to all my Load boys out there. That sounded better in my head. Shout out to all the people out there who like Load, because I know I do. And yeah, don't let any Metallica fan bully you for liking Load, because I'm telling you, really good album. And can't wait for that Load box. That's gonna be magnificent. I hope it's not $300, but yeah, that Load box, that's gonna be pretty cool. If we're counting live albums, the very first S&M would probably be my favorite Metallica album of all time. Just because Metallica with an orchestra, that sounds magnificent. It sounds amazing. I don't know what it is, but just Metallica with an orchestra, it just... wow, it's heavy too. I love that album very, very much. So, yeah, just throwing that out there. Alright, number 4. Okay, number 4 is gonna shock some people, because some people can be like, that's not a rock or metal artist, Gabe, what's going on here? But number 4, History, Past, Present, and Future, Book 1 by Michael Jackson. Like I said, this doesn't have to be exclusively rock and metal, but man, Michael Jackson, easily my favorite pop star of all time. Been listening to his music since I was a little kid, and History, definitely his most underrated album if you ask me, along with Invincible. But I love how aggressive History is. Michael Jackson, he got Slash on this album, and, you know, I'm not a Guns N' Roses fan by any means. I don't like Guns N' Roses at all. The only song I like by Guns N' Roses is Sweet Child of Mine. Any other song by them, ugh, disgusting, No, I'm joking. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Guns N' Roses. I can tolerate them, but they're not my favorite band by any means. But, yeah, I thought it was really cool. I like Slash as a guitar player, though. Slash is a cool guitar player. But front to back, this album is just, wow, it takes you on a journey. And I really wish Michael would have made more like a follow-up album to this, because, you know, it doesn't really sound like Michael's stuff from the 80s. This is aggressive MJ. Like, this is just Michael Jackson. He gets in the studio and he's just frustrated. Like, he is furious. Because around this time, you know, they had the allegations going around about him. And this is basically him just venting all of that in the studio. And man, do I love this album very much. It's amazing. It's aggressive. It's hard. It's not thrash, but it's very raw. And you don't really hear Michael like this a lot. But I love aggressive Michael like this, because this is just some of my favorite songs off here. You got songs like Scream. You got They Don't Care About Us, Stranger in Moscow, This Time Around, Earth Song, DS Money, Michael's cover of the Beatles classic Come Together, which I really, really love that cover, You're Not Alone, and Tabloid Junkie, my favorite track off this album. I just love that song so much. Too Bad, and History. Amazing. I love this album. And I enjoy every single one of them. I don't think there's any filler. And this was actually a double album. The first part, the first disc, is the greatest hits. The second part is the new stuff. I thought that was really cool, because you get like double the songs, and that's awesome. You got 15 greatest hits, and then you got 15 new songs, which, I mean, how can you pass that up? Because Michael Jackson, he never made a bad song. Even his unreleased songs were really, really good, and I wish they were released. But yeah, and you know, I enjoy this. I'm not a huge pop fanatic by any means. You know, I like pop music. You know, I don't think there's anything like. I never understood those metal people who are like, metal is the best genre ever, and any other genre is disgusting. It hurts my ears. Ugh, it sounds disgusting. It's auto-tuned. It's awful. Which I do agree that there are a lot of auto-tuned pop artists now, but to just discount like all pop music, like, come on now. There's some really good pop music out there. You just gotta look for it. But yeah, I listen to other genres besides just rock and metal. You know, I listen to everything from Slayer to Scatman John. So trust me, I listen to a lot of genres, and I know that might have shocked some people, but yeah, I listen to a lot of different music. It's not just rock and metal. But this dude. This is if you ask me, this dude is the king of metal right here. Number 3, The Last in Line by Dio. Now, by now, you're probably realizing that Ronnie James Dio is all over this top 10, which, you know, favorite vocalist of all time. He's got to be up there. But yeah, I love every single track off this album. Ever since I first listened to this thing front to back, like, man, the first time I ever listened to this was just like, it blew my mind. It was just like, I don't know, like, I listened to Holy Diver, right? And Holy Diver was a really good album, but then you listen to this, and if you ask me, this is way, way, way better than Holy Diver, which Holy Diver is probably I'd say my third favorite Dio album after, like, Strange Highways, because I just love Heavy Dio. Heavy Dio sounds amazing. But, yeah, this album was just, it was amazing, you know? You had songs like We Rock, then you go into Breathless, I Speed at Night, Evil Eyes, Mystery, Eat Your Heart Out, Egypt, The Chains Are On, One Night in the City, best song off this album. But you just go through all those tracks. I probably sent them out of order, but you go through all those tracks and they're so good. They're amazing. And this is the album that made me that made Dio my favorite vocalist of all time. And any song he performed on, he gave it his all and always showed. 100% Dio did. He just gave everything he had. He just went out there. He rocked. You know, like he says, we rock, you know. That dude was rocking till, even at the very end of his life, Dio was still, even like the year before he passed away, Dio was out there, and he was like in his 60s, I'm pretty sure. And he was just, you could just see that he was excited to be out there and had so much energy and like, yeah, I mean, you know, I really wish I could have met Dio, you know, because, well, I would have definitely fanboyed if I got to meet Roddy, you know. It makes me sad I'll never be able to, but yeah, I mean, I would just, I think I would lose it if I met Roddy, you know. And yeah, I would have loved to meet Ronnie. He seemed like such a nice guy. He loved his fans, from what I've heard, and you know, I've heard from people, you know, fans to musicians, that he was one of the sweetest people you could ever meet. So yeah, you know, I'm sad I could never meet Ronnie, but I'm sure he would have loved the fact that his music meant so much to, you know, me and a lot of other people too. It's not just about me, but to everyone, you know. His music meant so much to a lot of people, and I think that would, you know, that obviously made him happy, you know, so, yeah. Alright, coming in at number 2, We Are Not Your Kind by Slipknot. Now, ironically, although Slipknot's my favorite band of all time, they do not hold the title for my number 1 favorite album of all time. But, you know, this is still a masterpiece. I'm not discounting this at all. I love this album. I love how the songs go, you know, there's interludes in the songs that connect the tracks, and, you know, it's basically just like a whole experience. You turn this thing on, front to back, it just, every single song transitions into the next song, and it's just beautiful. And, you know, not every song is like Slipknot heavy, you know, like, I forgot what that one song's called, oh, what is that song called? It's like the Pain song, My Pain, I'm pretty sure. That song does not sound like Slipknot at all, in like the sense that you would think of Slipknot, but I love that song, you know. There's some people like, I don't like it, it's too slow, but I love that song. And, you know, this album does have my favorite Slipknot song on it, which is Nero Forte. Love that song. I know some people don't like it, but of course I do, you know. I love Slipknot, you know. You ever feel like throwing some furniture? That's the song you pick. But, yeah. I love this album by Slipknot, and it's still my favorite to this day. I like the newest album they put out, The End So Far, which came out last year. That album I love because it was more like progressive and psychedelic. It had a lot of elements you wouldn't really associate with Slipknot, but I still loved it. I don't think it's above Iowa Volume 3. I have a ranking on the Slipknot albums, which, by the way, look outside your window, might be coming out this year. And if it is, oh boy, am I going to be excited, because I've wanted to hear that thing for like as long as I've been a Slipknot fan. So yeah, that's going to be really cool. Okay, number 1, this is gonna blow your minds. Curb by Nickelback. I love this album, best album ever made. Any of these other bands are just trying to rip off Nickelback's sound. I mean, come on now, Nickelback, best band there ever is, and that is the... Okay. In all seriousness now, number 1, Euthanasia by Megadeth. The original version, not the remastered. Say what you want about Dave's vocals, but in my opinion, he's got one of the most unique voices in all of rock and metal. Like, seriously, no one else really sounds like him. You can imitate him, obviously, but no one sounds like him. I can think of a single singer who just sounds like Dave Mustaine. I mean, maybe some people have some moments of sounding like Dave Mustaine, but like, always Dave Mustaine? I've never heard of another person who could do that, besides like a cover band, but yeah, I mean... Dave's vocals are very unique, and on this album, they are phenomenal. If you think Dave's a bad singer, just listen to this album, because that dude, he's not a bad singer at all. He can sing, especially on this. And every single track off this album gives me chills, like every single time I hear it, especially Addicted to Chaos. I don't know what it is about that song, but every time I hear it, it just chills everywhere, you know? And it's just my favorite song off the album, my favorite Megadeth song in general. But I just love that song. I love how doomy it sounds. You know, it's kind of like that doomy type of thrash metal. I get it if it's too slow for you, but I love it. I think it sounds amazing. Every single song off this album is just so catchy. I dare you to listen to Family Tree and not sing along. It's impossible. Let me show you how I love you. It's our secret, you and me. And that's just my Dave Mustaine impression. I'm gonna do a Megadeth cover someday. You take a mortal man. Imagine that. That'd be funny. But anyways, getting back on track. I love every single song off this album, as previously mentioned. And I could throw this album on anytime and never get tired of listening to it. I'm so happy that Spotify put the original version of the album back up. Because, man, those Megadeth remasters are awful. I'm sorry, Dave, but those remasters are just not it. Those things are terrible. Like, I literally listened to, like, what's that album called? So Far, So Good, So What? Isn't that what the album's called? Anyway, something like that. I listened to the original version of that album. It's just so much better than the remastered. Same with Rust in Peace. Same with Countdown. Same with their debut. Same with just every single Megadeth remaster in general, especially this album. Listen to the originals. Don't listen to the remasters. I'm sorry, Dave, once again. But those remasters, they just ruin the songs, if you ask me. And, speaking of that album, that you're talking about the, what was it, the $300 vinyl I was talking about earlier? The only album and the only record I'd ever buy, if it was like $300, is Euthanasia by Megadeth, the original version, on a record. That's the only time I've spent like $300 on a record, because I could just only imagine how amazing that would sound. And even on the CD, I need to get me a physical copy of Euthanasia on a CD, like an OG copy, not a remaster, because I don't want to listen to that. Like, I'm sorry, Dave, but those, it's just, like, the first time I ever heard this album, I was like, oh, I'll listen to the remasters, because usually remasters are better than the original, you know, but not Megadeth. Megadeth is one of those rare bands where the remasters are just, ugh. I don't know what it is, but I just don't like the Megadeth remasters. Maybe it's just a me thing, but, man, they're bad. So yeah, go look up the original versions of these albums by Megadeth, not the remasters, especially Cryptic Writings. Just go listen to the original. You can find them on YouTube, but I don't know if they're on Spotify or not. I think most of them are now, but the original Rust in Peace was missing for like a whole year from Spotify, so I remember I was so excited when they put it back up too, but yeah, the original one of that was long gone. So you might want to pick up physical copies if you can find them. They might be a little more expensive, but trust me, they're worth the price. And, yeah, that's my top 10 albums of all time. So, let me know what you thought of my top 10. You can give me your top 10, top 5 favorite albums of all time. It could be any genre. It does not have to be rock or metal. You could put some rap stuff on here. You could put some EDM stuff, jazz music, anything you like. Put it on this list. And, yeah, so thank you all for all your positive message, your love and support of this channel. I thank you all very much for all the positive messages and everything. And even the negative messages, those things crack me up more than they should. I love when people hate on me for being a Load fanboy. That'll never get old. But, yeah, thank you for all your love and support. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button. I know I don't really ask for that much, but I think you should. You might regret it. No, I don't think you'll regret it. I don't know why I said that. I don't think you'll regret it. But yeah, thank you all so much. Take care and stay safe out there. And check back later, because later in January, I'm going to do an Iron Maiden discography ranking. Like every single Iron Maiden studio album. That'll be there. Right now, I'm still kind of binging the catalog again, just, you know, re-listening to albums to see which ones I like more than the other ones. So, yeah, that'll be out soon. And then after that, I might do an Eminem discography ranking, because a lot of you love the Eminem top 10 I did. That got a lot of views, so I might do an Eminem discography ranking. And after that, I'm definitely going to do a Metallica one when the new album comes out, of just like every single Metallica release. Not every single one, but like the S&Ms, Garage Inc., you know, put that stuff in there. And yeah, I'll do like a huge Metallica ranking again, and a new top 10 too, so. And then when those Black Sabbath remasters come out, I'm going to do a huge Black Sabbath discography ranking, and I'm talking about like every single studio album in there. Yeah, that'll probably be like when the remasters come out sometime. And after that, we'll do Deep Purple, and then maybe a Rainbow, or what else band is there? I don't know, it really just depends on what you dudes want to see. So let me know if there's like a band you want me to cover. I know I got a lot of requests for bands to binge. I haven't binged yet, but yeah, leave some suggestions down below, and I'll take a look at them. And until next time, see you later, take care, and listen to Load and all these other albums I listed. And make sure to leave your top 10s down below. See you later.